The section 1220 project, we have added clauses they're clauses that cover any design construction safety matters, those recognised by the designers as potentially out of the ordinary health and safety matters, or even those passed on from the client necessarily to make sure that they're part of the contract. For a small, simple project with very few of those sorts of items, if any, you would not want to do a large amount of documentation for that, and so we've provided a schedule whereby you can simply put in simple issues with simple explanations actually into the section. However, for larger projects and more complex projects, there might be a need to do more documentation than would be practical to put within the section. And in there we have a clause that says there is a design construction safety report separate to the specification. Now this report is the one that the designer would do for the contractor, and that's distinctly different from the one that the designer would do for the client owner or whoever, because for the client owner you would also list health and safety issues with regard to maintenance and potentially right through to demolition. The health and safety matters that are unusual, and unusual comes out of the Australian Code of Practice, as there's not a lot of guidelines for the designer in the New Zealand legislation. But looking at the Australians, they sort of indicate that if a contractor, if it's normal risks and hazards associated with a normal building that a normal contractor would expect and be used to dealing with, then there is no need to list those. Yeah, be careful when you go there in terms of know which approach you're taking. In 1260 project management, which is the more conventional side that we're used to, which is asking for a contractor's health and safety plan and etc., etc., we have updated those clauses in there with respect to the new Act. We have added things like risk as opposed to just hazards. So now he has to deal with the risk of hazards as well as the hazards themselves. And of course terms like PCBU and things like that. Now the other thing that's included is the coordination between PCBUs, and that's the main contractor and other subcontractors who are individual PCBUs in their own right, and they will have their health and safety things. All of this has to be coordinated and integrated, and even separate contractors or somebody like that. What the designer should be aware of is that the design construction safety issues should be reflected in that, and that's what it may pay to check, so they become part of the essence of the project and don't expose the designer or the owner to some sort of liability that wasn't addressed properly. In Masterspec Minor, it's handled in a lesser way. So in section 1210 project, all it does is talk about design, construction, safety matters, and has a little schedule. It does not perceive of the concept of a full separate safety report. A minor project using the minor specification isn't really supposed to be used for such a big complex project, and therefore we haven't addressed that. However, if for some reason it is a minor project but requires more filling out, then that would have to be altered. In 1220 general requirements, we've updated the terminology to the new Act. not quite as extensively as in the other systems, but enough to cover what a minor project should be. Changes and substitutions during a contract are potentially problematic, regardless of what they're associated with, and should be treated with great care. Recording and analysing what's the changes and who is responsible for gaining approvals for those is very important. With health and safety, if there are health and safety issues associated with a substitution or change or something, then they should be treated like the whole project. Risks and hazards should be addressed and recorded, and if necessary, the contractor's plan should be, health and safety plan should be altered to suit. The behind the scenes are not related to the specification is that obviously you must keep for the whole of the project a health and safety file on the whole project, so that it's recorded what you do and think and everything else about the project in terms of health and safety, and indeed what the owner thinks, does, has information on, etc., etc. And really you have to keep them informed as well, particularly after the construction. There are all sorts of requirements to make the owner aware of what they're buying into in terms of maintenance, and indeed in terms of any future demolition. And so this is why the design construction safety matters or report is quite important, that you set out what you believe, so that thereoretically no repercussions come back on you.